Welcome to the Accomplish More podcast, created specifically for the small business owner who doesn't think small. I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. This show is where you'll learn practical ideas, hints, tips, and tricks to help you grow your small business, where you can leverage your time and to accomplish more. Welcome to the Accomplish More podcast. I'm Gayla Scrivener, and I am super excited today because joining me in the show is Sharon Snow.
Hello.
Sharon is a valued Scrivener Solutions virtual assistant and works with us doing social media and e-newsletters. And I'd like to introduce everybody to Miss Sharon. Sharon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a native Missourian. I live in Southwest Missouri. I'm co-owner of a business in this little community and homeschool my kids, work for Scrivener Solutions, and also sell Young Living essential oils.
You're busy.
I'm always busy.
Well, how long have you've been working with Scrivener Solutions? For quite a while.
Yeah, a little over 4 years now.
Wow, time has flown.
Yes.
We've
and
known
I
each
love
other.
it.
We've known each other longer than that.
Yes, we have.
Well, today's show, I wanted to talk about scheduling. You know, one of Tony Robbins' famous quote, one of his well-known quotes is, if you talk about it, it's a dream. If you envision it, it's possible. But if you schedule it, it's real. I really think that that's true.
Oh, me too. I agree.
I have said one phrase of that or another for so long that my husband, Robert, he repeats it everywhere. He's a musician, so he'll immediately put things on his calendar for any gigs that he has. He schedules things with friends or family, and it gets on the calendar. He's like, if it's not on the calendar, Gayla says it doesn't happen.
Well, that's right.
So he has it there all the time, but we even share calendars, our Google Calendar. Mm-hmm. I see his, he sees mine. We know where we're supposed to be and when we're supposed to be together, or geographically. That's pretty cool to know where we're supposed to be.
It is, especially in a family that runs a business.
Mm-hmm. And I know that other people see my calendar and they're kind of intimidated by it because there's a lot. It's color coded.
There is a lot on it.
And with you, you have 2 boys,
mm-hmm.
and you work in 3 businesses. You have your brick and mortar business, you have your Young Living, and you have Scrivener Solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And you homeschool.
Yes.
How do you do it?
There's a lot of hours in the day, so we just plan them out. We actually schedule them, just like you were talking. It goes on a calendar.
You block out time?
We block out time for school and even for travel time, just to and from all the many things we do because we live kind of far out of town. We schedule time to go visit grandparents
mm-hmm.
during the week. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but if it's not on the calendar, we don't get it done.
Yeah. And I know a lot of folks, the businesses that we work with or that I network with, a lot of people, they'll only put like appointments mm-hmm. down on the calendar. And actually my philosophy is that if it's not on the calendar, then it's not really that important.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get done. And some folks don't even carry a calendar, and they try to keep it all up in their head. I know when I was young, I could keep everything in my head. But things were on calendars, like with school when I was in college, and knowing when certain things were due, when things, there was a lot of things that we could take care of, but we scheduled it.
Mm-hmm.
As we get older and there's more things to do and there's more lives, there's our personal life, there's our business. And if it's let's say marketing, for example, or things on our to-do list. I don't know about you, but I have a fairly healthy to-do list.
Yes.
And I can look at that to-do list saying, well, I'll do that tomorrow. But what I find that if I don't move that task from my to-do list as a block time on my schedule, it usually doesn't get done.
Yeah.
Like certain marketing things. Like we're doing this podcast, and this has been on the calendar for quite a while.
Yes, it has.
And we blocked out that time. And so we are talking about not only recording the podcast, but I will have to block out time to get it all prepped and on, whether it's my time or any one of the Scrivener Solutions team, it has to be set deadlines for.
Yep.
And what I found, and I don't remember what author or business person that really talks about moving things from your to-do list to your schedule. And I think that's important because when you block it out and be realistic with the time frame, sometimes that is hard to do. But being realistic that this is going to take 45 minutes or an hour and just kind of buffer that a little bit. And I love that you actually block out time for travel time.
Yes.
Because if it's white space, it'll get filled.
It sure will. It's an hour from where we live to the nearest big town. So we plan that in. So if we're going to go, to go pick up shopping, shoes, clothes for the boys, something like that, I plan 2 extra hours because it's an hour there and an hour back.
And if you don't, then what happens?
We have no time to shop. We just don't go.
I know when it takes a little bit of prep time to schedule. And I think it's very important to go ahead and block off time of reoccurring things. And you and I both use Google Calendar. There's a lot of different tools, but having that free resource that digitizes it. But not everybody is digital, or they kind of steer away. But even if you have your day planner and you like to handwrite things, which I like to do that too, because when I do my overall planning, I will get out an old-fashioned calendar. And it's toward the end of the year right now. So I'm already thinking 2018.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, Robert and I had just got off from a trip to North Carolina, and I used some of that windshield time for thinking about next year. And I physically had a calendar in front of me. It's like, okay, what's really important to us and what do we need to schedule? And I went ahead and blocked off the 3 months that we want for our travel time.
Awesome.
And because that's important. And so now that's making us think differently. And I translated that over to our Google Calendar. But I saw for the whole year, what are these big important events? And so we have an important event in May that we want to go to, one in June, and one in into September, 1st of October. So then we know travel time.
Yeah.
We don't want to just go out there and come right back. We want to have the opportunity to schedule time of, we're going to stay put a few days, do our work stuff, then have some fun time. I mean, we're planning on what went wrong or what we did not like this last trip. It was way too fast. And what do we imagine it to be? So you have access to my calendar because you work with me, and so you'd see those already blocked off in 2018,
Right.
which helps us know when staff meetings will be. We want to try to have a monthly staff meeting, so let's go ahead and schedule those out as recurring. It kind of helps us plan. And then I have my networking meeting every Thursday during lunchtime. Well, for the last 4 or 5 years that I've been doing that, it's already reoccurring on my calendar.
Which is a great free thing from the Google calendar that they have, that you can just go ahead and schedule it as recurring for the rest of the year or 2 years, whatever you need.
And I think that for the overall plan, if you're trying to plan for a year or just for the big things, for a year or a quarter or what have you, having that tangible piece of paper and drawing it out and making those plans is really good. Yeah. But even if you're not digitally, enthusiastic, maybe you can say, because I know a lot of people that shy away from technology. It's like, nope, pen and paper, this is how I think. I really encourage those that own a business that even if you are technically challenged, figure out a process to get on a digital calendar, because you're setting yourself up to get help.
Yeah.
I know being on our digital calendar, and we have every Scrivener Solutions employee can see my calendar, where I'm at. Because what we do is I have an individual call with each one of you every week.
Yeah.
And that keeps us accountable on our projects, and you guys know what's going on with our clients or in our world. And we just all stay on target and on track. But I leave it up to you to schedule it when it works with you, and you see the white space on my calendar and you put it in.
Yeah.
If I had my paper calendar, you could not do that.
Right.
And then I also have Norma, who helps me schedule some of our client calls and things like that. And I have times that I give her direction that these are the best times for me. And that's where she steers. And me coming from a medical background, working in medical offices, and we have the doctor's schedule. And it was, I've been around in the industry long enough that we used to have it in a paper book.
Yes.
And then it went electronic. But you block these times out. And in a doctor's office, they schedule like new patients on certain days and certain times. And you schedule like post-op surgeries, those checkups at certain times. And that just makes their schedule easier. Yeah. And it helps the scheduler know what kind of appointments to put where, because some appointments take longer than others.
Yeah.
Same theory with any business type thing. And so I encourage any business owner to start, if they're just starting out and they're only a business of me, myself, and I, then I really encourage them to transition in mirroring onto and getting comfortable with a system in an electronic format, because it's so helpful to have other people, even your spouse, know where you're at.
Yes.
Because I don't get calls like when I'm in a meeting, because Robert knows exactly, oh yeah, she's in a meeting, or she'll be coming home around this time, or now I know where she's at. Even though we use a system, an app on our phone, Life 360. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Life 360 is a little app that we have, and it basically GPS tracks us. It's kind of creepy,
but awesome.
But awesome. Especially, I like it. I mean, we have nothing to hide from each other.
Right.
And we're the only ones in our circle. And I can see if he's still at a gig at 2:00 in the morning, or if he's in transit.
Right.
And, we live really remote, and he may be playing a gig an hour and a half away, and it's night, and there's deer.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel good to say, okay, that little motion.
He's still moving this direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it alerts me. It's like, oh, good, he's almost home.
Yay.
And for us, it's not so creepy.
Well, that's a great app, though, when also you have kids. You can kind of know where they are, and you don't want to be texting them while they're driving. You don't want to give them any distraction. So that's a great idea.
And there's also it helps with, we're kind of straying off on something, but they can kind of see where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You can see where they're at. You can get a paid version. Robert and I don't have a paid version, but you can get a paid version of different locations of alerts to say, okay, they just arrived at basketball practice, because basketball practice is always here, and especially when Henry starts driving himself to those practices.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
We won't go there yet.
No.
But that does work with scheduling, because then you can also see how long it takes to get from here to there. If you're meeting a new client, and then you can figure that in next time you have to go there.
Yeah. And it does show, with the free version, it shows your trail for the day, for the last 24 hours. And so Robert can look at mine and he can say, oh, she zigzagged all over town. But also, I'll tell you this on a side note, this was something weird that we didn't know of. When we were traveling back from North Carolina, we were in Missouri, and we were traveling in the middle of the night. That app, well, when we hit that deer, then when we got back in the car, it's kind of creepy, but Robert's phone had an alert. It's like, we detected a collision. Do we need to contact? And I don't know, you can put an alert on there.
Oh, wow.
Because there's a little button on there that says, if I need to panic and give Robert some sort of quick message through that app, it'll go to him. And
Interesting.
When we're in the olden days, when we were broken down by the side of the road,
no one knew.
No one knew, and you had to hike to somebody's house. And stuff.
And at 2 a.m, some people won't answer the door, no matter what.
And granted, doing that little message or whatever, sure, there's text message, but this one's a little bit different. It's a little bit more of a panic mode.
Wow.
I've never used that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of cool. But with the scheduling, I think it helps family, it helps staff, and it also holds you accountable.
Correct.
And I know that we've implemented a system in Scrivener Solutions. See, on my calendar, Thursday's my face-to-face meeting days. I already know that 11:30 is my every week networking meeting. It's been that way for a long time. It's just reoccurring. It's blocked off. And I rarely miss it. I miss it when I am actually traveling somewhere else. But I know when I'm traveling somewhere else, so that I can, since I lead that meeting, I need to find a substitute.
Yeah.
And so I can plan ahead. It helps. Well, I also know that when I did not block off times for certain things when I was first starting my business, and people wanted to meet with me, well, I just was willy-nilly everywhere.
Sure, I'll
and
meet.
It's like, sure, I'll meet. 10 minutes? Okay, My conversation has changed, and it seemed like most of those meetings were not very effective. I was just meeting for the sake of meeting.
Right.
Now, on my calendar, I have a little bit different color, and I've blocked off times for face-to-face meetings. I have an 8:30, and then I have I want to say 3:30, and on Thursdays. And then I have a conference call on a Monday. Well, when Norma, I say I need to meet with so-and-so, she knows exactly when she's trying to arrange that for me. Those are the 3 times. If it's face-to-face and it's a Springfield, Missouri client, then it's 8:30 or 3:30, And she will delete that reoccurring and put in that meeting, but it's like blocked off for that type of appointment. And my meetings are much more effective. I'm more selective. And sometimes the people that just want to meet for the sake of meeting, which happens, and I can't meet with you until, let's say, 6 weeks from now. If they're serious, they're going to meet with me. If they're not, then it probably wasn't a good meeting anyway.
Yeah.
And I do get hooked up with meetings that people just want free information.
Yeah. Yeah.
and will never ever want to have an action plan or want to get help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, well, I just want to take up your time. So, okay.
Yeah. Well, pick your brain.
Pick your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you fill up your calendar, and I have calendar time for client time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I don't do that, I procrastinate, or other things seem to become more important.
Right.
And but I know that my meeting times now are so much more valuable. And
Good.
those folks, I'm not so worried anymore. If I can't meet with somebody until, November,
Mm-hmm.
then that's okay. It's like they respect my time. I respect their time.
Yeah.
But then you know what else that has done? Now that, because I'm digital, and because Norma and you and Brandy,
Mm-hmm.
everybody on the team has my calendar, but Norma has a system that she confirms those appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just gotten a email from one of our clients that we have a standing appointment on Thursday afternoon, about 1:00 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And he emailed back and said, I think we can skip for this week. It's like, great,
Yeah.
And in fact, I think that we talked about that last week, but I forgot to tell Norma.
Mm-hmm.
And that system's working, because he says, we can skip for this week, but could you send me a revised statement? I want to get you paid. Two birds, one stone.
Wonderful.
And if we didn't have that system in place, that Norma, I don't even have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Norma already knows, and she'll message me once in a while if she needs clarification. Is this like a time that you're going to call? Because I have some times that aren't real meetings. It's like work. And
Yep.
so I need to make sure that I word it to where she understands.
Yeah.
And so it's helped me a lot to stay organized. And then I have very rarely had no-shows to my meetings.
Wonderful.
When we confirm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why scheduling is so important. And then you're setting yourself up when you go digital for your family and your future staff.
Yeah.
You could delegate. And that one task that I delegate to Norma once a week to confirm does not take her very much. My investment in that is not very much. She is more than happy and within her systems to do that. And it has saved me so much time.
Yeah.
So
I
much
can
time.
imagine.
So that's why I think scheduling is important.
Definitely. Well, and there's nothing like knowing exactly what the boss is doing, where and when. And so you can do your job better and please your boss better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's there's a topic for another podcast, but one of the things I've been thinking about a lot, and you and I need to do a podcast about it, is the biggest bottleneck in a company is the boss, the top person, and how you can avoid being that bottleneck.
Yeah.
And it takes your team to help you. So we'll go into that. But the first thing is, don't be a bottleneck with your schedule.
Yeah.
And organize yourself. Before we wrap up, though, I want to say, I don't know about you, but with the people that I come in contact with that don't schedule, they're just like, I don't know what's going to happen the next day.
I'll fit it in sometime.
I'll fit it in, and just have this arbitrary. They always seem like they're on this continual like hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And not really accomplishing anything. But they say, well, I can't put it on the calendar because it may never happen.
Oh, my. Well, it won't happen with that. And I feel like I'm in total chaos if I don't see my calendar regularly or fit everything in that I need to. I can't imagine living without it.
And you and I may be very organized people, but it also, it takes work.
Mm-hmm. I
But
didn't start that way.
Mm-mm.
I've had to grow into that.
You told me that you used to, for the boys, when homeschooling, that you used to just have it in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you have that calendar? I mean, what does it look like?
Well, we do a lot of it online, so that has the lesson plan basically outlined. I go in depth with it now every single day. Mm-hmm. I write out their schedule. I budget their time on how long it'll take on each project, give or take a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our day. And they've got to finish it or they have homework, even though we're homeschooled.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, do you do school Monday through Friday?
We do. Mm-hmm.
And certain time you start at?
We start at 9:15 every morning because that's what fits into our life.
Mm-hmm.
But we also go till about 3:15, 3:30
mm-hmm.
every single day.
And they are in a routine.
Mm-hmm.
They have the consistency. What happens if something unexpected happens?
Well, that happens. That's life. And we just have to roll with it. But we know those 6 hours or 6.5 hours need to be made up. Mm-hmm. So we can always push back, double up, whatever we need to do, or, weekend school, if that's what it takes.
Well, when you're homeschooled, you don't have snow days, do you?
No, we sure don't. It's just sad for the kids.
Sad for the kids, but maybe they can.
But they do better with the schedule and knowing. And we even plan in days off, for holiday time. Mm-hmm. We take our Christmas break at this day, and we don't start back till this day. And they know that.
Well, it's something to look forward to.
It is, and it motivates them to get all of their papers done in time and all of their school caught up to that point.
And it's a visual.
It is.
And you can give them reinforcement, and like you said, it motivates them, but it also, that sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, we're done.
Now we have holiday.
Mm-hmm. And it's a true holiday for all of us because I'm not working on school during that time either. Mm-hmm. We all look forward to it, not just the kids.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with your Scrivener Solutions schedule, we kind of have it a little bit. I've got a calendar, a Google Calendar for me that gives me an idea of our team, of roughly what days are you working. Mm-hmm. It is interesting working as a virtual staff because Brandy is a night owl and mm-hmm. she'll be working and communicating, and I don't want to not answer her right away, but sometimes I'm sleeping while she's working. But we find our way in our schedule. Yeah. And we make it work. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to at least have something written down. Mm-hmm. My hairdresser, every time I go, I make an appointment for the next appointment. Mm-hmm. And he says not very many people do that because this is what they say. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Well, I know that I better get my hair done. Yes. So I'm going to put it down because it's important for me to do that. Mm-hmm. And then now, like for right now, I'm seeing, do I have that appointment? Because it's been a long time. And then I look at my calendar. Good. It's next week. Yeah. Yay. And I don't understand that logic of, I don't schedule it because I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Right. Because then you're going to be in a panic mode. Oh my gosh, mm-hmm. I've got this event, or I need. And I can't get in. And I can't get in. Mm-hmm. They're already busy, and then it becomes panic mode. Right. So scheduling alleviates panic mode. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like with doctor's appointments, those once a year checkups that you have to get in mm-hmm. as you get older. And they schedule them a year in advance. Well, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I do know I have certain days free. Mm-hmm. And I just have them schedule it on that certain day, and then I've already got my appointments made for next year.
Exactly. And you work at your shop on mm-hmm. certain days.
Yep, Mondays and Fridays.
And see, like on my schedule, Thursday's my face-to-face meeting. Now, if I change that networking meeting, then that's going to change my whole thing. If I have a different networking meeting, then my face-to-face day may not be Thursdays anymore.
Yeah.
But that's a total strategy change. And then I would change accordingly. So, well, I think we've said a lot about scheduling.
We covered a lot of scheduling ground.
I would like to hear from our audience, and I encourage them to email us at podcast@scrivenersolutions.com. That's podcast@Scrivener, SCRIVENER, solutions.com, and tell us about your challenges or your systems in scheduling and how that works for you. If you like the show and the content, please subscribe. And until next time, have a fantastic week.
Goodbye.